Chapter 399, White Robe Sword King, Reverie. Edijong Cheng sat straight as a pine, unmoving as a stone, and spoke with calm indifference. I never trade moves with someone who has already been defeated. Shenjong Cheng, you're scared, right? Luoda's voice drifted in from outside. Shen Cheng lifted his bowl of wine, took a slow sip, and said, I detest people like you who don't know their own measure. Since you insist on forcing a fight, then once I act, I certainly won't show mercy. Haha, that's perfect. I want to see just how much your strength has grown, Luoda replied, but his laughter was bleak and shadowed, revealing extreme displeasure. Shenjong Cheng rose to his feet, reached out for the sword resting on the table, and strode out of the tavern in great steps. Hong, the crowd instantly surged outward. This was a fierce clash between two figures, ranked toward the front. Who wouldn't want to witness it? Let's go take a look too, Ling Han said with a smile. Hu Niu nodded. One hand clutched the corner of Ling Han's clothes, while the other still didn't forget to grab some dried meat to chew on, and she left the tavern together with Ling Han, departing the stronghold and arriving at an open area outside. At this moment, Shen Zhongcheng stood opposite a youngster of 24 to 25. That youth's frame was tall and robust, likely taller than ordinary people by 2 whole heads, making Shen Zhongcheng look like a child in comparison. This person was clearly Luo Da. Yet for such a stalwart brute, his weapon of choice was surprisingly not something that relied on brute force like a rod or an axe, but a sword as well, and not one, but 2 short swords, like embroidery needles in his hands. The contrast looked utterly incongruous. And yet no one laughed. Luo Da ranked 42nd on the prodigy roll, and that was absolutely not earned as a joke. Draw your sword, Luo Da shouted. If you can force me to draw my sword, then naturally I'll draw it. Shen Zhongcheng replied indifferently. The words sounded rather pretentious, yet the girls watching nearby immediately sent out smitten radiance from their eyes. Arrogant! Luo Da lunged forward, brandishing both short swords. Martial intent burst forth, forming strands of white silk that coiled and convoluted around Shen Zhongcheng. Ling Han couldn't help but nod. Luo Da truly was an elite of the spiritual pedestal tier. It was just that he hadn't yet fully stabilized his cultivation at mid-stage of the first layer of the spiritual pedestal tier. Those silk strands were condensed sword chi. He had clearly cultivated a peculiar sword art that could actually twist sword chi into silk threads without letting it scatter. Certainly somewhat impressive. To be listed on the prodigy roll, could he possibly be a mediocre figure? Shen Zhongcheng used his fingers as swords and shifted his footwork, flicking his fingers to release sword chi. Sword chi? Why was it called sword chi? Because it required a sword to compound the keen sharpness of a treasured blade before it could be fully employed. But when fired out through fingers, that sharpness would be greatly reduced. Then why not send out fist chi instead? Because the might of fists lay in the force of the strike, not in the effects of slicing, cutting, or dicing. Now, with Shen Zhongcheng using fingers in place of a sword, the sword chi's power was naturally much weaker. If the sword in his hand were a 4th tier or even a 5th tier spirit tool, then the effect of not using it would naturally be even more pronounced. Everyone involuntarily cried out. Shen Zhongcheng was truly gifted and daring, clearly lower than Luo Da by an entire large tier, yet he still dared to be so arrogant, not even drawing his weapon. But Shen Zhongcheng wasn't arrogantly reckless. He was genuinely talented, his fingers moving as if plucking a lute. Shoo, shoo, flash after flash of sword chi shot out, each one landing just right to neutralize Luo Da's attacks. The two actually tied. Yet Luo Da was a full large tier higher and was using weapons. Those 2 short swords were clearly spirit tools, their surfaces gleaming with vein-like lines. With such an enormous advantage, he could only tie with Shen Zhongcheng, when in truth, this already meant he had suffered an overwhelming defeat. Hu Niu's eyes began to brighten, fixed on Shen Zhongcheng's figure with a warlike, eager expression. Ling Han too felt an itch to fight, for he was also a sword user. As expected of the white-robed sword king, too strong. To match Luo Da at the 1st layer of the spiritual pedestal tier, while he himself is at the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, if he advances into the spiritual pedestal tier, his estimated battle prowess should surge to 9 stars or even 10 stars. Yeah, there's still 4 months. Shen Zhongcheng can definitely step into the spiritual pedestal tier. The year-end prodigy battle will be a fine show with yet another anomaly. Everyone nodded repeatedly, fully approving Shen Zhongcheng's strength. Ah! Luo Da roared, unable to accept such a result, even though he had clearly advanced into the spiritual pedestal tier. He had assumed he could rely on the advantage of a whole large tier to suppress the powerful opponent before him, yet he still ended up empty-handed. His eyes turned crimson as he decided to employ a few trump cards. He absolutely could not lose in public. Are these the so-called experts of the North Region's prodigy role? A youngster arrived in a streak. Hong? The pressure of the spiritual pedestal tier overflowed without restraint, instantly suppressing everyone until they could only gasp for breath. Everyone was shocked. This youngster was only 24 to 25, yet he was a high-level spiritual pedestal tier warrior with unquestionably astonishing battle prowess. However, not a single person recognized who he was. A genius like this should have been a renowned figure on the prodigy roll. Shen Zhongcheng and Luo Da immediately halted, turning their gazes to the youngster at the same time. Truly disappointing. So weak I can't even bear to look. The youngster shook his head, contempt written across his face. Trash like you actually have the nerve to rank on some prodigy roll? It really makes me laugh my head off. Who the hell are you? Luo Da barked in fury. This fellow was basically looking down on all 100 people on the prodigy roll. Me? The youngster sprang forward, pressing his left palm toward Luo Da while firing a punch toward Shen Zhongcheng. He actually challenged 2 outstanding figures on the prodigy roll at the same time. Luo Da instantly slashed with his sword, while Shen Zhongcheng hesitated. With a chang, his long sword left its sheath. Shua, shua, shua. 7 flashes of sword chi shot forth at once, striking toward the youngster. Peng peng. With 2 muffled, suppressed sounds, Luo Da and Shen Zhongcheng were both knocked back, blood dripping from their mouths as they suffered a loss in this exchange. Hiss! Everyone couldn't help but be dumbstruck. 1 against 2, battling 2 prodigies, and he not only won completely but even injured them both. His strength was truly shocking. Though a high-level spiritual pedestal tier warrior should indeed display such might, this youngster was only 24 to 25. It could be called very fair. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant. He truly was monstrous. Who are you exactly? Luo Da cried out in shock. Shen Zhongcheng removed his bamboo hat, revealing an ordinary-looking face. Yet his eyes were like dazzling stars, compelling people to stare, unable to tear themselves away. His fighting intent surged to the heavens as he held his long sword before him, releasing waves of profound aura. Ling Han shook his head slightly. Tier was a shortcoming, but if Shen Zhongcheng advanced into the spiritual pedestal tier, he would qualify to contend with that youngster. But now, he didn't. That youngster was at the 9th layer of the spiritual pedestal tier, and from that earlier strike, his battle prowess should be around 12 stars or 13 stars. Not too freakish. However, to crush spiritual ocean tier warriors, even the 1st layer of the spiritual pedestal tier was more than enough. Chapter 400, Sword Emperor II. Translator, Reverie, Kurisu. I am Tong Ji-ming, the youngster declared with lofty arrogance. Everyone racked their brains. Where in the world had this Tong Ji-ming come from, and how had they never heard his name before? With talent like this, he ought to have been famed far and wide. Tong Ji-ming suddenly turned as though listening intently, then nodded and said, My family's master wants me to ask you guys if you know of Fairy Jew's whereabouts. Pooh? The instant those words fell, everyone sprayed mouthfuls of spit, faces full of utter disbelief. My family's master? A prodigy like this was merely a servant? Impossible. Someone 24 to 25 years old, already a high-level spiritual pedestal tier elite, would be the finest genius in the North region. How could he be a servant? Who's your family master? Someone asked, voice trembling. Tong Ji-ming immediately glared at them and snapped. Who the hell are you? Are you even fit to ask for my family master's name? Don't forget, I'm the one asking you guys. Now tell me the whereabouts of Fairy Zhu. We aren't your servants, answering whatever you ask. Everyone was enraged by his domineering attitude, so none were willing to cooperate. Looks like I'll have to kill a few idiots to warn you country bumpkins. Tang Jiming sneered, striking out brazenly. Pooh, pooh, pooh. His silhouette swept past, and several heads were plucked clean off, spinning as they rose. Blood erupted from the severed necks, soaring skyward as the headless bodies danced and staggered. The sight was like a scene torn straight from Asura hell. Run! Run into the stronghold! Everyone instantly lost all will to fight and broke into a frantic sprint. Tang Jiming's murderous nature burst forth as he chased after their people into the stronghold. Yet a massive hand immediately smacked toward him as an aged voice said coldly, "You've gone too far." Pang! Tang Jiming was instantly blasted backward. "Which old bastard is it? Come out and I'll cut you up." Tang Jiming took a minor loss, but it only stoked his viciousness. He drew out an oddly shaped saber reminiscent of a lion from a spatial ring. Where did this junior come from, having such nerve? An old man appeared, standing atop the stronghold's wooden walls. "It's Senior Pai?" "This is great. Senior Pai is a veteran spiritual pedestal tier elite. It's said that he advanced into the 9th layer of the spiritual pedestal tier 20 years ago. Although he couldn't cross into the flower blossom tier, with 20 years of continuous cultivation as honing, his battle prowess is definitely beyond 15 stars. He can definitely suppress that arrogant brat." With a sturdy pillar to lean on, everyone immediately felt reassured. "Ignorant old man, come over. Let me cut off your head." Tang Jiming roared, slashing his saber toward the old man surnamed P. As the blade cleaved out, a golden lion manifested, exuding a dreadful, ominous aura. One man and one lion lunged toward the senior surnamed Pai. That strange saber was a spirit tool, not only reaching 5th tier, but also carrying astonishing martial intent. The golden lion was more powerful than Tang Jiming himself. Tang Jiming's own battle prowess was only 13 stars and couldn't match the 15 stars battle prowess of the old man surnamed Pai. However, this golden lion reached the battle prowess of 16 stars, completely suppressing the old man. At this moment, the entire scene fell silent, with only the unceasing reverberation of their fierce exchange. Hiss! Even Senior Pai's 15 stars battle prowess was suppressed. If Tang Jiming were to attend the prodigy battle, wouldn't that mean he could seize first place? This year, those like Yu Kun-lun who were 30 years old were automatically disqualified, and the highest-ranked Lu Yang was only at the 3rd layer of the spiritual pedestal tier, with 12 stars battle prowess. Even with his beast pet added in, it would still be impossible to rival Tang Jiming. What was happening? Had some random figure sprung from nowhere, with strength enough to sweep across the entire prodigy role? Ling Han spread out his divine sense, discovering another man. Tang Jiming's master, who apparently employed a sound transmission technique to speak with Tang Jiming. This meant the master was nearby. There, Ling Han immediately pinned down the location, then opened Eye of Truth, spotting a youngster perched atop a treetop several hundred meters away. Golden divine light cloaked his whole body, and that radiance was shaped like a sword. That youngster seemed to sense Ling Han gaze and immediately focused his eyes to look back at Ling Han. Wang, their gazes collided, and Ling Han instantly felt pain like being pierced by an exceptional treasured sword, forcing him to hurriedly withdraw his sight. Even so, a streak of bloody tears had already dripped down. "Sword Emperor," Ling Han cried out inwardly, yet instantly shook his head. Impossible. Sword Emperor's appearance looked far too different from that youngster's. There was, however, a startling resemblance between the two, because Sword Emperor too was wrapped in sword-shaped divine light. The difference was that Sword Emperor was infinitely more powerful. That person could be seen as the younger version Sword Emperor, because he had just stepped into the Flower Blossom tier. It was deeply shocking, for that youngster was only 24 to 25 years old. A conjecture immediately surged up. That youngster was a disciple of the Heaven's Sword sect. That was why Tang Jiming looked down upon the prodigy role. He wasn't from the North region at all. "Old P, let me help you." With a thunderous roar, another spiritual pedestal tier old man appeared, joining forces with the old man surnamed Pai to battle Tang Jiming. "Senior Ma!" everyone cried out again. The old man surnamed Ma's strength was far stronger than the old man surnamed Pai's, just enough to hold the golden lion in check. With this, Old Man Pai was freed, and as he unleashed his full battle prowess, Tong Ji Ming was instantly suppressed. In only a few moves, Tong Ji Ming was pushed to the brink of death, forced back against the wall time and again. Though he managed to evade, several wounds were carved into his body. When, at this moment, a terrifying oppressive presence swept over. A man strode through the sky, each step seemingly casual and yet spanning 100 meters. In an instant, he arrived above the battle. With every step, a sword pattern blossomed beneath his feet, evolving into several thousands of divine swords, terrifying all who beheld it. Strolling in the sky, the flower blossomed here. Instantly, everyone lifted their heads to look skyward, faces filled with reverence. Flower blossom tier warriors were like gods upon this land. Yet when they saw the person's appearance in the heavens, they were all struck dumb. How could he be so young? A 24 to 25-year-old at the 9th layer of the spiritual pedestal tier could already be crowned the best in the North region. And now, a 24 to 25-year-old flower blossom tier elite had appeared. Wasn't this too absurd? Master! Tong Ji Ming immediately dropped to his knees, paying respect to the youngster in the sky. Hearing this, everyone shuddered within, exclaiming that this was as expected. No wonder a genius like Tong Ji Ming would be someone's servant. This youngster was even stronger, unimaginably strong. The youngster in the sky frowned and said, "It's only asking a question. Why was it so difficult?" "Master, these two old guys won't cooperate," Tong Ji Ming hurriedly replied. "Since that's so, die." That youngster extended one finger and 10,000 rays of sword light instantly surged. Poo, 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 poo. Infinite rays of sword light instantly drowned the two old men, and not even a corpse remained. Everyone was aghast. This youngster's murderous disposition was way too great.